Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points in filmmaking. And welcome, kind folks, to the Just Giggle It Grab Bag numero dos. That's right, folks. It's the second Just Giggle It Grab Bag. Who is Just Giggle It, you ask? Well, you might have heard of a little web series called Harley and the Joker versus the Real World. That's right, the great web series where Harley Quinn and the Joker move out to LA and all sorts of crazy shenanigans ensue. Just Giggle It is the YouTube channel behind it, and they also have a sketch comedy show of their YouTube name. Dragon, why don't you explain more, sir, and explain why we're diving into the back catalog of this wonderful channel?
You see, folks, Just Giggle It is a YouTube channel of the highest order. It really is. It's full of people who know what they're doing. They know what makes good comedy. They know it's a group that keeps on impressing us. And we've recapped Harley Quinn the Joker versus the Real World. Basically, recapped every moment, kind of broken it down in great detail and great depth. Because we love it and we think it deserves it. And Just Giggle It. They've been really, they've been gracious enough to be really interactive with their audience. They've done some live streams. We kind of got to talking during the live stream, and you know what? There's so much kind of love and energy among the fan base of Just Giggle. We thought, hey, you know what? Let's kind of add to the fire, and hey. Let's talk about all the various shorts that kind of built Just Giggle to the point of getting to Harley Quinn the Joker versus the Real World, where they're kind of at now. So let's kind of backtrack. Let's kind of go through the sketches that kind of made these guys in the first place. And I had seen a few. I haven't seen all of them, and we just kind of figured we kind of polled in those live streams as well as in the comment section of the videos below. So anyone watching this, especially if you're Just Giggle It fans, by all means, throw in suggestions of what you'd like us to kind of recap in regards to the other Just Giggle It videos. And any video, because again, we're already covering Harley Quinn the Joker, so pretty much any video but those are given, and we'll strongly consider for the grab bag. If not, just do it. And again, we've even gotten input from the show's creators, from Joshua Thomas himself, and also a few suggestions from Piper Hinson, from the initial kind of live stream. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here. So we're gonna kind of break them down, kind of not just recap, not just say, oh, this is this happens and this happens and this happens. We're gonna say, this happens, that kind of speaks to this, and we don't really get that down the line until we get this. We get to really kind of break. We get to see kind of the beginnings of things. We get to explore how Just Giggle kind of got their groove in the first place. To kind of summarize it that way. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So now we've picked, per the suggestion of the wonderful people at Just Giggle, we're going to start with One Night Stand, personal favorite of theirs.
All right, hold on, Dragon. I have just a couple ground things to cover with that, but great introduction. First of all, folks, as Dragon said, just to add on to what he was saying about the commentary on the beat by beat recaps, you're absolutely right, Dragon. It's not just like this happens and this happens. I would say the point of this is it's part retrospective, where we're kind of giving us sort of giving your take of what happened to get us to Harley and Joker, as you said, Dragon. Very astute observation there. But also, importantly, I feel like this is almost kind of like a comedy workshop. This is a podcast that kind of boils down exactly what works in a joke and kind of takes it apart and dissects it. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into what exactly makes a joke and what really boils it down, I feel like we did a really good job the first time around. And also, Dragon, just importantly with the suggestions and everything, usually we like to do one original sketch and then one pop culture related sketch per episode. So
basically a sketch and a parody. It's kind of like the pairing we're kind of going with for the time being.
Sure. Okay, so let's start. Let's kick things off with our sketch. And as you said, Dragon, that's One Night Stand. Any background info about this one?
Yes. So again, these are also some things where again we can't really read into much because again we didn't make the thing. We're just kind of piecing together little details that we can kind of glean from in terms of background here. So this episode is One Night Stand. Apparently, it was the 18th episode from Just Giggle It, and this was directed. We have from what we've done so far. The two that we've covered previously, they're both directed and edited and written. Essentially, a very one man showed by Joshua Thomas, which is not uncommon because when we years later in their channel history where we kind of started with them, Harley Quinn the Joker, Joshua Thomas, he's pretty much been kind of directing, editing, and writing on those. And so now we're kind of breaking form as we get into episode Grab Bag 2 here, because now the director is, I believe, I think it's, sorry, Mark. I think it's Mark Smith. I'm going to have to double check that, but we have. Sorry. We have a different director.
Mal Smith.
Mal Smith. Sorry, folks. Terrible. Sorry, my pen smudged when I wrote this down. Terribly sorry. Yeah, it's Mal Smith. Yes, it is Mal Smith. I was gonna just if Mal's listening out there, so I was going to check it to make sure he got proper credit. Okay, Mal. Okay. Anyway, so yes, this is by Mal Smith, who I really just want to say up front here, and I'll definitely give him a shout out as we go throughout this thing. I think he did an excellent job in directing this. I'm not just trying to say, oh, we did such a better job than Joshua Thomas. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have some really creative shots throughout this. I think the
thing about this skit that really stood out to me right off the bat is that it's suspenseful. You know what I mean? It's like a snowballing concept, and it's very obtuse, and it's very and it's very surreal in its execution. But in some ways, it's almost kind of borrowing from some Hitchcockian tropes of, the situation getting progressively worse as we go into it.
I think the biggest influence I got from this, and I think you'd agree, Tiki, because usually out of the two of us, you love to go for this reference more than anyone, very Twilight Zone-y.
I could see that.
So, also, here's a first. I don't recall seeing her in other videos that I've seen personally. I believe we have, for us, the first time I've seen Nicole Stone, one of the other actresses at Just Giggle.
Mm-hmm.
And she plays Grace, or initially unnamed one-night stand girl who turns into Grace. So, without further ado, Dig, unless you have anything else you just kind of want to get out, let's you want to dive right into it.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Well, again, Joshua Thomas also. Again, Joshua Thomas wrote this. Mal Smith directed this, and also Joshua Thomas. I'm pretty sure he edited this too. But we have a real editing standout in the next episode, so I might just be thinking of that. So we'll see.
Oh, also, just importantly, in the chronological context of Just Giggle It, this is Just Giggle It number 18, which comes right after Just Giggle It number 17, which is a personal favorite of ours, Dragon. It's Pretty Flowers.
That thing you call
by
your
the way,
wife.
Confirmed by the creators themselves. That line delivery was from Aladdin. I called it.
I know, I saw that. Yeah, congratulations, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got the old Tiki, one could say.
I had to double check because Joshua Thomas, he was like, yeah, man, I love Aladdin. I was like, just for the sake of bragging rights, does that actually mean the line is from Aladdin? Because I'm serious about those bragging rights, Dragon.
So you could say, Joshua Thomas, in noticing that you understood that reference, you could say that Joshua Thomas was...
I understood that reference.
Proud of his boy.
Oh, God. Okay.
That's another obscure Aladdin reference. But anyway, let's just move on. That's a really obscure Aladdin reference. Anyway.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at least it's Aladdin this time. At least we're actually tying it into Aladdin.
Okay. Off the Aladdin onto One Night Stand. So, One Night Stand, we begin with a man and a woman. Not a woman with flowers, different woman. Man and woman, basically they're kind of, we start with them basking in the post-coital victory, if you will. They're kind of, they finished up a night of enjoying each other's company. So we meet, as we're going to learn, their names are Colin and Grace. So Colin and Grace, Colin, he's either he's either a little drunk or he's stupefied by just an amazing night that he's just, taking part in. Amazing date that he's just had. One night stand that he's just had. And so he's a little stupefied, and we kind of begin what seems to be a classic setup here, and this is like another stamp of Just Giggle that we're kind of exploring here. And we've kind of been highlighting when we see it occur. Just Giggle is kind of masterful at the misdirecting comedy, at the classic setup, kind of with like something like turned on its head. Turned on its head will either be cranked up to 11 in regards to absurdity or a darkness.
And right now, I think with this sketch, it's cranked up to 11 in terms of absurdity, because what we're expecting in this situation is we're expecting, like, okay, the girl's a little bit more into the one-night stand than he is. It's probably going to be a classic, like, oh, he wakes up and she's making breakfast. Oh, no. But boy, do they push that.
Yeah, something interesting I noticed with this Tiki, and again, I think it is predominantly, I think there's a lot of Twilight Zone in this. However, I did notice something, especially on a rewatch. So we have our classic setup for man intimidating, basically the man the man intimating, for the one. Basically, for the one-night stand to leave in the morning. Stay the night, leave in the morning. That's kind of what he's trying to get across.
He actually wants her to like leave right then and there. Like,
yeah, but he's also
he's
also saying like, hey, either tonight or morning, if not right now, you can leave.
Yeah, right.
So again, that's a classic setup. But then we have an almost liar. If not Twilight Zone moment that occurs. And I notice this because we have this lightning, basically thunder and lightning out. Well, again, it's all this, eerie thunder and lightning happening outside. That kind of he's curling the girl close to him. And again, that thunder and lightning strikes me as very much in line
of an early 2000s high concept comedy.
Yeah, well, 97, Tiki.
What?
Liar was in 97.
Yeah, I'm comparing it more to stuff like Shallow Hal, same general era.
It's also kind of funny too. There is a bit, especially towards the end, we do have a bit of Bruce Almighty, we have Bruce Almighty in the editing towards the end of this. I can't wait to get to.
That's what I'm saying, like late 90s, early 2000s. That was like the king of the high concept comedies right there.
Sure, and here's the thing though, and I honestly on a rewatch this kind of spoke to me. That this moment, again, it kind of plays into very much what I think the intention is. We're okay. It's kind of like a liar, kind of like it's something eerie's about to happen, and basically we're going to have like a comedic circumstance brought on by an unknown force. Like, is it magic? Is it just coincidence? That's your liar kind of example there, and that's kind of I think it's what the intent is. However, I think the smarter intent, I don't know how intentional this is, but I like to read it as, he's curling up, he's curling up with a pretty girl, which. Well, there is that ominous. It is kind of a comfy setting. I for one, I sleep really nice. I sleep really nice when it's like all rainy and kind of thundery outside. It's a comfy setting. So you could read it as kind of a little positive thing, but at the same time, there's that ominous quality. And I think it's going to speak to where we're going to kind of go in this sketch. That there is, on its face, it's supposed to be played as terrifying and very very threatening. But I think there's also like a what if, like maybe it's not so bad.
Right.
We'll get there. We'll see how that holds up. That was kind of my read on a second viewing. So, okay, so then it's the next morning. So it's morning.
Mm-hmm.
We hear the classic kind of the old cliche. I don't mean that a bad way. So have the cliche. Oh, what like that, the old morning music. Oh boy, what a glorious morning. Cut to Grace still being here.
Yeah, but not just that. She's just at the side of his bed, just with a creepy smile on her face, just kind of a stalker pose.
Yes, to Colin's horror. So to Colin's horror, and here's the thing, to Colin's horror, she is unpacking her stuff the next morning.
Oh, yeah, right.
Now, I'll say this, and again, on a rewatch, I kind of had a different read on it. The first watch is kind of like an instinctual, because I had never seen this before until this viewing, by the way. So, One Night Stand was not one of the Making Murder stuff's the one I know like the back of my hand. I can't wait for us to get to down the line. But this one, I noticed there was a little kind of shadow of what would come later with the Harley Quinn and Joker versus the real world, where he had Bane little Dark Knight Rises Bane figurine.
God.
And for me, basically she knocks Bane over to make room for a seashell. I was like, okay, that's it. That tears it. It's like that's the symbol of okay, something's wrong in paradise here. Okay, she knocked, she replaced Bane with a seashell. Who does that?
So just to speak to the high concept nature of this, like I said, it's like one would expect this sort of premise to begin with. Oh boy, she's making breakfast. Isn't that wacky? But no, now it's like genuinely life-changing decisions are being made right from the get-go, and that's kind of like the hook of the rest of the skit is like every step along the way, every beat is like this big step in life.
Yeah, it's you're right, and what we do here too is like we have the Colin. He goes for a very direct explanation of the one night stand. He asked her to please leave, and I got to tell you, there's also a bit of Seinfeld in this too. I don't mean just they pull these comedy comparisons, but I've heard I remember in I think Piper Henson, she I remember she didn't take offense to like any kind of comparisons because she was quite flattered when she saw one of the Just Giggle videos is also eerily similar to another comedy sketch. So I don't think comparisons are really like an insult to any of this. So if we do that, just again, it's just high praise if we're comparing it to something. Mm-hmm. And I did find like a kind of a vague Seinfeld thing of like kind of Joshua Thomas and the Jerry, again, like another kind of classic comedy thing we could be doing is it's kind of like the Jerry Seinfeld kind of in a Seinfeldian situation where it's like, hey, it's not the simple one night stand because something it's like, oh, one night stand gone wrong or gone messy, as per the Seinfeld situation of like, okay, time for your to leave. Yeah, I don't think so. That's your Seinfeld situation. That's where it would go, and it seems to be starting there. But then, as Tiki is suggesting, we're going to crank it up to okay, what if we just kept the momentum going after that gag? It's not just like it's not like Jerry's going to the cafe and saying, I had a one night stand, she wouldn't leave. It's not just doing that. It's like, no, we're going to stay in that scene. We're not going to cut to the coffee shop scene. We're going to stay in that moment. So she's offering to make breakfast as Colin hits the showers. And again, he still remains unheard despite asking her to please leave. So here's my favorite part of the whole thing. So we meet Grace's parents.
The part that I think speaks to what you were saying about like, really at the end of the day, when you break it down, it's not a terrible situation that he's landed himself in.
That's what I'm saying. It's not the worst thing in the world he's gonna go through.
Because you've got these like super loving in-laws that are like bending over backwards, like, all right, first of all, what's your name? And then she like puts her hand on his hand, like, call me mom.
Oh, that's my favorite line in the whole special, by the way. My favorite thing. Piper Henson's delivery. I love Piper Henson.
Sorry.
So Piper Henson and the wonderful. And the first time we're covering him, I believe in the grab bag. Alex Ponzio has made his first wondrous appearance in one of the Just Giggle episodes for us here. And so again, I love that he and Henson are like good old makeup on, by the way. They've really, I thought it was good kind of old age makeup. It's not too old, but again, it's not too it's like buyable. It's like it's believable enough in a way. Yeah, solid makeup, and they're like basically it's like their old foreign in-laws. They have like an accent and everything. So he meets Grace's parents, who have also moved in along with her. So again, it's like okay, the parents are living with them too, presumably. And of course, like, who are these people? And these are my parents. Welcome to family. and again, Tiki, as you just said, again, that delivery from Henson is like, I'm sorry, ma'am, what's your name? You can call me Mom. And then here's the thing that cracks me up on the other side of that. So Piper's, I think, is just perfect in that moment. It's just, oh my God, it's so hilarious. But Joshua Thomas, I love how he just kind of takes the energy and he's kind of, again, almost in a Seinfeldian manner, but again, like more pointed Seinfeld manner. I guess if you want to be a discerning kind of like, you could say, oh, I guess it's more Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's more pointed Seinfeld, regardless. It's just, Mom, Dad, you can call me Papa, or like, Papa. Please get out of my house. And again, I love this. I mean, again, we don't like break things down. We don't have like the whole like, oh man, you're this This isn't happening. What is wrong with you?
No,
Why don't you
like I
rise? We
said,
don't do any of that.
completely goes with the misdirect that Just Giggle, as we keep saying, is known for. You would expect that to be the end. You would expect that to be like, gee, this guy's a jerk. But no, instead they play the classic like, oh, I get it. They want a long time to make the grandchildren.
I tell you, this makes me Tiki. Oh my God! I gotta tell you, the voice that Piper Ensign did on You Can Call Me Mom reminds me of kind of our electric running gag. I gotta tell you, it reminded me a little bit of our electric running gag.
All right, let's not go down the rabbit hole with the electro running gag, but
All right. Anyway, it's for another time. So, and I love this. Obviously, I love how frantic he is to get rid of him. Okay, yeah, take the plates, just take the plates with the breakfast on it. And Poncio has another winning line. There's all the parents stuff. I think is my favorite thing in the whole sketch is where he's saying, "Goodbye, new family." Just
yes. Again, that's what I'm talking about, Dragon. Like, really, if this is the situation you're like stuck in, it's not a terrible situation. You know, these in-laws are awesome.
Yeah. So then here's the direction I really want to give major props to. And this is where it starts to come into play for me. I love the fun Twilight Zone-y direction with the reveals. But like basically now we turn and we start to see kind of like her photos, like the couple's photos. Like he basically when he gets Poncio out the door. And I love this too. And this is like something again. The little details fascinate me on this Tiki because initially I thought it was like a flub or something where, okay, so, he tells them to grab the plates and get out of there. I thought they wanted them to like drop the fork or something because you heard something drop. And then we reveal, okay, a photo dropped. That's the reveal in that photo. Oh God, it's now him and his new his new fiance.
That I love how we get, Dragon. This is the most Twilight Zone moment of the episode for me, where he's on his knees to pick up the photo, and then a ring magically gets conjured up in his hands.
Well, here's the thing too. In that direction with the ring is out of everything. This is the most Bruce Almighty kind of Tom Shadyac-esque directing in this whole thing. Basically, it's like that sudden. It's like the whole seven fingers. It's like that sort of reveal. It feels so much like a Bruce Almighty shot. I'm super impressed by that. Like, oh my God, they get the timing just right. I'm not saying like they were going for Bruce Almighty. Like, oh my God, that's good comic timing right there.
It is
in the direction. Like, very good. Like I don't know, like if that was like a structured shot they were going for, like that, or that was like son Joshua Thomas did the editing. I don't know. I love it. So, and of course, like it's like the ultimate, like again, it's like your worst best nightmare in a way because he turns like, oh, of course I'll marry you. He says, no, I don't even know your name. It's Grace. And she's so positive. She's so nice and sweet about it. So here's the thing. It's here. If I were to analyze the special, I don't know why I keep calling it special. If I were to analyze the sketch here, it seems to be the cautionary tale in the one night stand. The benefit of delayed gratification versus kind of the shortcuts. To being in a relationship. You should wait for the wonderful thing versus kind of the direct kind of instant satisfaction. I think that's kind of the underlying kind of moral of the piece. But at the same time, I think it also speaks to a fear of moving too fast. And it's not just a male thing; it's just any relationship thing. So it speaks to that fear of moving too fast in a relationship. And Tiki, I know you haven't seen these yet, but the new series that Just Giggle has been doing, the new series Heightened, which I told you about. Basically we see the Just Giggle cast playing heightened versions of themselves, and there are 2 episodes up right now. And now it's it's on YouTube because there was like a weird delay thing. Joshua Thomas he assured me that yes, when the second episode is that location, I don't know if that's like I my fingers are crossed that hey, they were able to shoot in the YouTube building. That means hey, Just Giggle's doing all right in the world. They're moving up. It's good for them. Hey, they're in the YouTube studio, hooray! I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's just like hey, we were just in the neighborhood. No idea. The point is, the first episode they did, and they're playing heightened versions of themselves, so it's kind of hard to see how much of it's actually them, how much of it isn't. But the first episode is kind of about Piper Henson kind of laying out some. Basically, we see Piper Henson and Joshua Thomas kind of airing out some fears and inadequacies in those heightened, in those heightened episodes. So this makes me wonder, in the writing, I wonder if Joshua Thomas is speaking to any fears that he has, like a fear of commitment or anything. I wonder how much of that's in the writing. There's a little food for thought there.
Ooh.
And
for the record, the only reason I haven't sat down and watched Heightened yet is that I kind of want to watch it when we eventually cover it on the podcast. So, way to
right,
throw
that's
me
fine.
under the bus for not having kept up with the current creator content, Dragon. I'm just kidding. All right.
All right, so let's see. So in reading into like kind of the meanings behind meanings, getting into the getting back into the episode, I guess. So basically, Colin's asking you what happened. Why you were so different last night. You gotta look for again. The editing's really strong in this one. We can't, and again, I love that they're showing that again. This is not necessarily the worst thing in the world for him because bizarrely, I feel for Grace. Despite Colin is technically in the right, like he's in like kind of right in the regards of it's like it's a stranger in his house and again
Well,
the
I mean,
tone and
he's in
everything.
the
He's like
Bill
okay,
Murray
son's kind of
Groundhog Day situation. Like, he's the one who's, he's in this ridiculous, like, metaphysical situation that can't be explained. So we as the audience were like, okay, this guy, like, we're on his side because it's a ridiculous premise. But at the same time, much like how we relate to the townspeople in Groundhog's Day and we show sympathy for them, this poor girl is kind of stuck in this this metaphysical time loop with him. You know what I mean? I'm getting crazy with this.
yeah, and again she's just so she's just so uplifting and positive, and it's like oh my god, she's so endearing, and there's nothing. It's like we're in a horrifying situation without her actually being horrifying. I think that's really you don't see that every day. That's really clever.
Yeah, it's creative for sure.
So anyway, so he's asking what happened, why was so different. Like, I was drunk, and again, she just says it very like a happy expository way, and also I kind of like that. I don't know if you got this, but it kind of felt like Colin is kind of getting into a very green eggs and ham type style delivery here, with like, "You're not my girlfriend, you don't live here, and you are not my fiance. It's a one night stand, one night." Feels very like I will not.
But maybe the creators can clarify if that was part of their inspiration.
Don't believe me. I'm just reading into that. I'd be amazed if it's another Aladdin. If it's another like a Aladdin, like I don't want to say just I guess Aladdin deep cut. That's a proper way of kind of phrasing it. It's not like another. So I was going to say coincidence, but that's
lady.
Yeah. I'm just saying like the whole like it's like he's been reiterating this in his mind, almost like the whole like I will not eat green eggs or there I will not do.
I gotcha.
Okay, let's see. So, and of course, while this is happening, in good staging here, again, good visual comedy, and I love that right behind them in this framing. And again, this is a good reveal frame, by the way, for what the gag we're about to have. But with the framing, I love we have that another picture behind them that just suddenly appeared with like the two of them, like a couple shot on the wall, like in between them. So again, our guy who was again, as these are very well explained. Again, we're kind of in that loop where again our guy's in the right, but at the same time, it's like he's being kind of cruel to this girl, despite again just asking a very, very legit question. So she's saying, "So we're breaking up?"
And this is the big turn, Dragon. This is finally, when we kind of change sides, we're just like, oh no, don't break up with this poor girl. And we're about to find out why that's not going to be a viable option, Dragon.
Yeah, and then we're going to get to what I think is we're going to get to something, a talking point, to say the least. So, you're breaking up, you're kicking me to the curb. What about our baby, Colin? And then we revealed the baby.
Honestly, Dragon, it's the timing of this that makes me kind of accept it.
You're right. There is good timing on this. There is. Here's the thing. So
the way I feel is like it's not just the timing on this one gag; it's the fact that the whole skit has been building up to it. So that to me makes it worth it. The fact that this is kind of like the big punchline reveal at the end.
Right. I mean, yeah. Here's the thing. I feel the reveal is great. The reveal is great, and that's the joke to me. That's okay. That's I kind of feel that's almost where it should end. I think basically okay. So what happens is, of course, you reveal, oh my god, she has like she has the pregnant belly, and then a great moment of pause goes by, and then we have a joke that suddenly ends everything, where he punches the belly. So let me be clear. So again, this is it's kind of subjectivity in comedy. I feel this gag boils down to. Okay, this is a subjectivity thing where it's a subjective joke, but probably, in my opinion, just my opinion, I'm iffy on it in that I feel it was probably not wise to end on this joke. I'm not saying it's a bad joke necessarily. I'm just saying it's a joke that it's risky to end on this. I really do, because as your last joke, and I feel they kind of paint themselves somewhat into a corner of we build it up so well, and again they've done it excellently. They did it so well, and again the big reveal, the pregnant belly. And it's just kind of a where do you go trap. It's kind of the where do you go trap in comedy, where we keep building and building and building and building and building, and it's like, well, where do you go from there? It's got to do something kind of broad, and you can either, again, it's kind of just Giggle style. I'm not saying it, and again, not in a demeaning way. I'm just saying, again, it's kind of the go big or go home, but in this case, it can be go big, absurd, or go big with like a dark undertone. In this case, we kind of went with an undertone, but on a rewatch, I kind of found a way to live with it. My way to live with it, and again, I'm not saying I don't have to like, oh man, if this one viewer can live with it, oh sure, then the gag. Whereas in my opinion, it does not matter one iota in this. But I read it as, and I think the funny way to read it is, he's punching a fake belly. I mean, well, obviously that's how they're shooting it, obviously. But I read it as, she is, we kind of see behind the curtain in that last moment that, okay, she's been orchestrating all of this, possibly. It's like an elaborate ruse through the whole thing, that she's invited her parents overnight and all this stuff to convince him of this life, possibly. Basically, it might be like, because when he punches that belly, it looks very fake. And again, that's hopefully, them definitely kind of saving themselves from that dark joke.
I can't echo that, Dragon. It is a very, I feel like it's an intentionally fake-looking belly. To kind of lighten the blow, if anything else.
And again, that's important. I'm glad they at least lighten the blows. It's either they lighten the blow, or they're like intimating that, okay, maybe she was so clever in that, there was no magic in this. She orchestrated the whole thing very cleverly. So, either way you want to read that. So it's a way to go. I would say I think they pushed it. I don't think it should have ended on that gag, but then again, I'll read it as like punching a fake bell and making it funny. So at the end of the day, again, I don't want to just we'll make it clear. I guess I'll get into my final thoughts of this if you want to do that.
I think I pretty much said my piece on it.
Well, let me round it out with this. I think it's well directed. Good visual comedy. Again, really great building comedy. It's not overall, it's not my favorite. Again, the end's dicey. I want to make it clear, though. Again, the ending does not kill the sketch by any stretch. It does not kill the sketch for me. It does not make it not one of my favorites. I just think other stuff's impressed me more. But I'm really amazed by the direction. This one's really what sells me, the direction, and again, kind of the makeup on Henson and Poncio, and just nailing it when we crank it up and kind of owning the absurdity, like that middle section with the parents. I think is the sweet spot of this. Be like, oh god, we've gone outside kind of the classic situation. We've made it so funny, and then again we keep building and building, and we're showing that so well. But at the end, I just feel it falls into that trap of where do you go, where we kind of reach the point where there's only so many things you can do when we get to the end here. So, okay, baby, I guess it kind of cuts there. And I think they were just kind of looking for, how can we end this in a memorable way? Because, again, it just kind of builds to reaction. We need to build to something. And they just kind of went with, okay, let's just kind of go. And, again, the joke is like, the guy's been pushed so far and he's just been pushed to madness. So, okay, I'm gonna punch this because this can't possibly be real. And I guess it's up for the audience to discern. So again, it's kind of it's an up to interpretation, and I think it's the definition of subjective comedy. So again, it either grabs you or it doesn't. Does not kill the special if it doesn't work for you, though. So again, the whole thing is very well executed. I think I was most impressed with the execution of this one on the whole. So that's where I'm at with it. So One Night Stand.
All right. So Dragon, it's kind of funny. I find this next one to be a little bit more uncomfortable than
really
what you're suggesting. Yeah.
How come on.
If only because I briefly dated a Jewish woman, and I'm also best friends with someone who's Jewish. So I don't know. I get the humor in this. This is definitely like
I just think you hate basketball. That's what I really think it is.
We're going to be talking about Adolf Hitler and Space Jam next, folks. And this is definitely the Family Guy brand of Hitler humor, where it's like, Join us next time on Hitler. You know, like the Hitler talk show style Hitler humor.
Yeah, like Hitler's favorite brother, like all that. Oh boy, I don't know what it is. Hitler in comedy works a lot of the time. It really does.
So I think this is the most interesting and unique sketch that we've talked about so far, because this is like basically a shot-by-shot remake without any real jokes in it.
Yes. Well, first of all, let's give him the title. So it's Adolf Hitler in space. It's very literally what it is, and that's pretty much what the title is. Adolf Hitler in Space Jam parody remake. Just Giggle at number 30. So this episode was directed by Scott Langford and was written by not just Joshua Thomas, but also the great and powerful Alex Bonzio. They kind of co-opted this one. I think it was necessary to really get the. Again, you're right, T. There are no direct jokes, but at the same time,
it's also the first Just Giggle that we've covered that doesn't feature Justin Thomas or Piper Henson.
Well, you're right. It doesn't feature Piper Henson, but Joshua Thomas is in this, Tiki.
Oh, is he?
Yes, Tiki. He's the father.
Oh God, my bad. Okay.
Anyway, oh no, it's fun. It was
I had a long day at work, folks.
Anyway,
that's embarrassing.
Anyway, plays Papa Hitler.
All right, Papa Hitler.
Anyway, but so this episode is directed by.
I'm dumb.
The point is, so Scott, I think these guys they nailed it so well. So again, Scott Langford's direction mixed with Thomas's editing in this, it's flawless, and I think mixed with just kind of, I don't know if it was like it's almost an anomaly. How do we get something this well replicated from Space Jam, from the original sources? Basically, it takes, I believe, what they had in the description was they basically strive to recreate the first 3 minutes of Space Jam as faithfully as they could, but of course with one minor change. Little thing. That one minor change, of course, is what if we took Michael Jordan out of the equation? Because Space Jam, it's definitely a '90s favorite for many people. It's a nostalgic, it's a very nostalgically remembered film.
I would say I would categorize Space Jam as the '90s movie.
Honestly, it is a reflection of '90s in many ways.
Like Rocket Power is the '90s cartoon.
I could agree with that. I mean, I'm convinced though that if I agree with you on that, I know there's gonna be like I'm gonna remember like, oh mate, there's that one movie in the '90s that probably is like more. I kind of, but right now
I'm convinced there's no more. There's no movie no more '90s than Space Jam, Dragon. I'm convinced.
Okay, in terms of what feels like the '90s, I'll agree with you 100%. What feels like the '90s, Space Jam definitely feels like the '90s. Like, we're talking about like what's remembered most from the '90s. Pulp Fiction was in the '90s, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's probably most remembered. But I mean, you're right in terms of what feels '90s. You're right. Space Jam through its blood. Space Jam's blood feels like '90s.
All right.
Pizza and skateboarding. That's what happens if Space Jam pricks its finger.
Yep.
So we take a very nostalgically remembered film, and we add Hitler, and we really pose the question: does it still work? And that's kind of the fascinating thing we do with this. I mean, what if we take it's such a film that bleeds the '90s, we add Hitler? Does it still work? Is it is it funny? Does it hit like an emotional thing that the opening of Space? Because let's before we get into this, let's talk about the actual opening of Space Jam. The opening of Space Jam is always really good, right?
I mean, yeah, you got that great R. Kelly song that was everywhere on the radio at the time. You've got Michael Jordan's father, and them shooting hoops together. It's a nice, heartwarming intro, Dragon. It sets the tone quite well. It actually sets the tone for the movie in kind of a classy, understated way that the movie doesn't really deserve, to tell you the truth.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. So they kind of took a beautiful opening to a very '90s film, and again, we're kind of seeing if it's very much a social experiment, if anything, what this spoof is. And again, it's a spoof in every way you want to do a spoof, and what it does is it gets it right. It gets the same circumstance. It does it again, it's kind of that Seth MacFarlane principle I spoke of earlier. It's kind of that Brooklyn Nine-Nine or that Seth MacFarlane principle of, if you have to earn it. You have to basically sell what you're parodying so well that people can say, oh yeah, I recognize that, and then you do that one change, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'm looking at that scene I know by heart, and I'm adding kind of this hilarious what if to it, and it's making it hysterical.
Dragon, what I love about this is that
without further ado, yeah, it's just
what?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is a scene that many people are going to know because it's right at the top of the movie. But it's not one of the iconic, like Looney Tunes scenes in the movie. It's a very understated scene. Like I said, it's one of the more human scenes in the movie. It's the most human scene in the movie. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the genius of the setup here, is that it's taking something that's known for being like really over the top and ridiculous and boiling it down to its most human moment.
Yeah, and speaking of humanity, there, let me just kind of say this, and we'll jump right into it. This is like I have a little story to tell with this. So actually, I wrote, I did write a Hitler story once.
Oh no! Oh god!
I did write a Hitler story once. It was ridiculous. And again, there's always an appeal. And again, I've recently, and when I told Tiki about this way back when, because I saw this one before. And I told Tiki that he hadn't watched until like we're doing the grad bag here, so he finally had an opportunity to experience it in all its wonder. Because on Preacher season 2 we have Hitler, and you have a very interesting sympathetic Hitler on Preacher season 2, and it's great. And I just think, again, as speaking to the Family Guy jokes before, we see Hitler in kind of more comedic circumstance, and again it's kind of a history and comedy. You go back to Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks' sole mission in life was to make fun of Hitler. That's but he said, he's been quoted many a time saying his goal to make people laugh at Adolf Hitler. And there's always like there's something interesting in taking Hitler, who's kind of a perfect opposite. He's kind of the perfect polar opposite in storytelling. If you need like kind of the opposite to anything, you kind of cite Hitler. Of okay, well, you need like a dark reflection. Okay, Hitler again. And I was kind of faced with the story. I was kind of asked to write a story, like a short story where, okay, we'd have you pick someone from history, and I kind of challenged myself with, what if you took an icon from history who was really, and we kind of found some sympathy within that, and I just kind of like off the top, what the most obvious choice was, well, Hitler. Again, I was afraid everyone else, when I was writing this, I was writing it with a group of people. Everyone was like presenting like there were other historical figures, and I just figured, oh, everyone's going to pick Hitler. It's the obvious one. No one picked Hitler. I was very impressed by that. So I wrote a story called Tuesdays with Hitler, and it's very much the title's kind of based on like Tuesdays with Maury. It's just like the idea like Hitler going to group therapy, had a debt. The idea is like, what if Hitler, he had a failed. What if his suicide attempt failed? And I made like a really dramatic kind of like, oh my god, what if you had. Basically, the goal is to have sympathy for the devil, essentially. What if you had sympathy for Hitler, who lost the woman he loved, and he was living like a crappy dead-end job? He had to go to anger management because he just got so pissed off at life. And at the end, basically, the story kind of ends with the group therapy, the anger management group, like clapping for Hitler, who's painting as like a hobby. It's like, and I painted this lately, and he painted an image of Eva Braun because he's basically still. I did kind of Heart of Ice with Hitler, essentially. If I'm gonna bullet point, I did Heart of Ice with Hitler. Not my proudest moment, but at the same time, I thought I did an okay job with it. I was kind of proud of it.
All right.
So there's always like an old sympathy in the devil or black comedy approach you can take with Hitler, with a dark and funny punchline. So with that said, let's dive right into it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Dragon. I have no words for your Hitler fan fiction.
Oh, it was not fan fiction. It was. It was for school.
I'm sorry, that was a very weird story to get like intimately detailed into, Dragon. No offense. I don't really have a proper response for that one.
Well, boy, do I feel sheepish. All right, fine. Let's just dive right into this heartwarming reminiscence of Hitler playing basketball.
Oh
let's just dive right in.
First of all, I love how it's still freaking basketball. You know what I mean? Like everything else has changed, but no, it's like they got the basketball thing down pat.
Yeah. So we have we have flawless recreation of the opening shot. Again, shot for shot. You like take that Gus Van Sant. You know, it's like this. Take that for Remake and Psycho. Look at these guys did with 3 minutes compared to what you did with a feature length. Darn it. So so let's see. And we go from the shot that really just sells you. I think kind of the shot of like bemusement of like, oh my god, they got it so right. It's like when we have that shooting star and we pan down to the trees and you go to the basketball.
Shooting star, the pan down to the trees, the I believe I can fly.
and again, folks, just to get this right, just to make sure it wasn't going crazy with how well this was executed, when I was taking notes for this. I got the clip from the opening of the movie, and I just kind of played it like every couple seconds. I stopped and I went back to the other version, see how it timed. And my God, folks, I swear to God, it times out identically. It like like panning down the music cue and the whole thing. And so this is funny.
It's such an unusual sketch for Just Giggle It, because really it doesn't adhere to their traditional structure of like setup and payoff. It's more, as you said, Dragon, I think social experiment is the right word for it. It's more just like, can we do this concept? Can we stretch it to the limits and do it really professionally and then get away with it?
Now, this is cool. While there aren't any really like kind of ha-ha jokes, and like there's no like real verbal, again, but pretty much in the dialogue, they, with the exception of like, they kind of alter it for the times, it's exactly the same dialogue that is in that opening. But at the same time, with those alterations and with the setting visually, we do have some smart, really hidden jokes here. So it's winter 1903. Where in the movie, it's summer of 73. So again, the three being important there. And here's the funny thing, T. It's an inside Hitler joke. Because again, I had to do research for that story, so I know a few Hitler facts.
Yeah, you had to do research for your Hitler fan fiction.
Yep. That's the last time I share something nice, all right? That's the last time I share a little nice story with you.
It's very nice, Dragon.
But again, I put him through heck. I gave him like...
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Anyway, so winter 1903. So this is that's 30 years before Hitler. To my knowledge, from like what I found, I think it's 30 years before he comes to, if not power, then full power. It's like after he gets everything lined up for what he needs for Poland. So 1933. That's when I believe when he was starting to. He's in the. That's when he was starting to come to power. The point is he was in a power phase at that point. So it's like 30 years, like all these promises he's making he will accomplish in 30 years. I believe that's like kind of the cosmic joke of it all.
Right.
All right. So, and again, this is amazing. This is kind of trippy. This is kind of like, as you like the phrase, it's kind of like a Mandela effect here. So, they took the minimal lighting that was in the beginning of Space Jam. Again, Space Jam, the opening is in color, but it's very minimal lighting. And in this, the lighting, and again, it's almost like an optical illusion, like an eye test almost, at least to me. I don't know. It's the whole thing looks older because again, it's in 1903 instead of 1973. And with that, I don't know if it's because they use like the same exact kind of minimal lighting from that, and just the way they shot it came out this way or not, but. It looks like it could be like just a very, very sparing color. There might be some green in the trees, but it's kind of hard to tell if there's like a black and white filter over it. That's the thing. It's like I don't think it's in black and white, but it looks like it's in.
I don't think it's like I think that kind of speaks to the quality of the directing. Like they know.
That's the thing. They have like a washed.
Visually.
Yeah, they have like a washed out effect at the same time. Again, it makes it like all these little touches.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So then, of course, I believe like flies playing. Then we have Hitler shooting hoops, and from the window, Joshua Thomas as Papa Hitler, or again for the historical accuracy, Alois Hitler Senior.
Sure.
The point is Papa Hitler. He's like Adolf.
God.
So there might be an age discrepancy here, but Hitler should be he's supposed to be 14 at this time, but it doesn't matter. He's a kid. So we have young Hitler as we come to learn with that Adolf line. Like, oh my God, we're 1903 and it's Hitler. We're doing this. And I love, this is my favorite detail. This just shows you again. It's like a simple thing. It's a no-brainer, but I just love it. I love that the Papa Hitler looks just like James Jordan Sr. And this is here's a scary fact. It's like the whole it's like the Kennedy Lincoln thing.
Oh man.
Michael Jordan's father and Hitler's father are both seniors. They both
Oh
had
god.
it was Alois Hitler Sr. and James Jordan Sr. You know, they both had brothers.
Too much sense.
They both had brothers, and I guess the firstborns got the same name, hence the senior and the junior.
Oh god.
It's fact, folks. I don't know. Look it up. Sorry.
The more you know.
But anyway, what I'm getting at is I love that he looks just like the beginning of Space Jam, where he has like the suspender.
Sure. He's got the suspenders. He's got, as you said, it's shot in that same kind of muted out look. I feel like the basketball is the one thing in both these scenes that kind of draws color to the camera intentionally.
Exactly, and again, that's why I'm thinking no, it can't be in black and white because like the ball's a little orange and the background's a little, the trees are like a little green. There's gotta be color there. It's weird. So yeah, I mean, I love that we get kind of again. I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued by Papa Hitler here because again, he's just like the working man look of James Jordan from the Space Jam opening. Where wow, there's a story to tell here with the father of Hitler. I'm very intrigued by. So again, he was asked more on that later, but he's asking his son, Adolf, what are you doing? It's after, again, the same line from the movie. It's after midnight. I couldn't sleep. And here's I think the brilliance of this whole thing. Tegan, this is why I think they did this for a moment like this. Now I could be reading it because I'm convinced they had to do this on purpose because it's too brilliant to be accidental, Tiki. So again, we use the same line, the same dialogue from the movie, but now with the Hitler of it all, with Papa Hitler, and again, just knowing that Hitler is not necessarily a happy family experience. I'm not going to say I don't know what went on in the Hitler household. Let's just say I would imagine it's not like a hugging family.
What you didn't? No, I'll give you a free pass.
The point is,
what about your Hitler fanfic again? But I'll give you a pass.
My point is, he says, neither can we with all the noise you're making. And again, with the accent. That's what I'm saying. With the accent, this is the brilliant thing of it all. With the accent, it kind of sounds like this scene could go either way. And again, now this to me feels the most out of anything we do. And this feels like the Just Giggle kind of setup and payoff type thing, where it seems like okay, we're going with something familiar, and then there might be a turn. But again, smartly, we don't do a turn. We let it play genuinely like the movie does. But again, it's like a setup.
And again, that is like the main format break of Just Giggle It for this. Sure, it's done completely straight.
Yeah. So yeah, like
some irony in this thing.
It could go either way, but it's played. They go for the heartstrings, man. They go for the heartstrings with Hitler, which again is like you rarely put that together. So again, like the movie, he's asking for one more shot before he goes to bed. He says, "Okay, just one," and he makes the basket. I love the old hoop, by the way. That's another alteration that made smart. I love it because it's 1903. It's like an old basket instead of just being it's not like a net like it is in 73. It's great. So and we see that Adolf Hitler, he's a pretty good shot, and he says, "Hey, it's a good shooting, shoot until you miss," which is a nice kind of.
I'm picturing like the bigger context of this is that like Adolf Hitler becomes a famous sports star instead of a dictator. Like this is like a bizarro like alternate timeline.
Well, Tiki, those military academies, they have an excellent kind of sports scholarship program. That's how Hitler, that's how he came up in the world. It was through a basketball scholarship, actually.
No, you're shitting me.
No, I'm kidding, T. Come on.
Okay, well, I didn't know. I was like, oh my god.
To be fair, I don't know that for certain. I'm just assuming that has to be it.
Like, could you imagine if there was some sort of like basketball background to Hitler?
God. Okay. Anyway, so So again, Hitler speaking of the Academy. So Hitler, a little Hitler, he's asking. I'm not referring to the Robot Chicken sketch, but like little Hitler, not that either. Again, Hitler's such a comedy bullseye in places. Again, it's darkness. We're finding levity in the darkness with Hitler, folks. That's what it's all about. If you laugh at him, he doesn't win. That's the age old kind of philosophy. If anyone ever feels a little sheepish about Hitler, just remember, come on, guy with like little thin mustache. He's very over the top. He's always pointing at things. Come on, let's laugh at the guy a little. So little Hitler at this point. He was asking if he gets good enough, can he go to the Academy? And again, really heartwarming moment again with Alois here.
It's like if you're good enough.
Yes, if you're good enough, you can do anything. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying, yeah, just the irony. I guess it is a little ironic. It's like, yeah, you can, it's like a total inspirational, like, oh, little Hitler, don't worry, you can do anything you set your mind to.
I gotta tell you, Tiki, and again, I think this is what's so brilliant in the selection here is that, again, it is borrowed, and it's like
the damn kid.
I mean, yes, but here's the clever thing is, Tiki, they're literally, I'm not trying to say it's negative, but it's kind of what you're literally, when you do a shot-for-shot remake, you're essentially ripping off of another material, and you're doing it somehow, again, they're making it their own with the Hitler Revolt. They're taking the same lines, the same emotion from what they're basing this on, yet at the same time, it's strengthening that one change. It's applying all of that to this one change. It's giving you, again, it's kind of giving you sympathy for the devil. It's kind of like either a sympathy for the devil story, or it's it's the old do we kill baby Hitler story. It's kind of a mixture between those two stories. The old, like, if we could go back in time, will we change something? It's kind of taking that young Hitler idea and kind of adding that.
Right, instead of killing baby Hitler, I think this episode is like, you know what? Let's just give him a basketball instead.
It's kind of, and again, I'm not again, opposed like the running gag about the whole the Hitler thing. Just again, the fact of the matter is, folks. I mean, I don't know anything about Hitler, but I would imagine he did not come from a happy home, from an encouraging household, and this is kind of suggesting, hey, what if Hitler had encouragement, had like kind of a parental, a strong parental bond like this? And again, it's like, what if it? I'm not saying it's like it's going to alter history, because it's playing into, okay, we know exactly what's going to happen. Again, it's playing into Tiki and I's love of prequels. We do have a strong love of prequels, so this is kind of playing into, it's darkly playing into our prequel love, like, oh man, seeing the steps that the character takes into becoming, who they are known and iconicized as.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's kind of adding layers of like, what if Hitler did have that encouragement? What if he started from a good place and then kind of became a monster? But again, it came from a good place. It's kind of fascinating in a way. Well, again, being played for laughs, of course, but again, at the same time, there's still there's that genuine, because they play it so straight. It's where the comedy and still the heart in the comedy comes from.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. So, so again, he wants to go to the Academy. If you're good enough, you can do anything you want to do, Adolf. He says, I want to serve in the Bavarian army. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing that impressed me most about it, real quick. I love in the editing, we cut to the baskets of him making the baskets, and we focus on the basket the same exact way in the movie. It's like, that was the thing I had to go back. Like,
yeah, that's where it gets really shot by shot in terms of doing a remake. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You just imagine, okay, we got the opening, we get the we see what they're going for, and we get the end. You imagine they were just going to do that. And again, a bit of that subversion they're not doing in the comedy and the writing, but they're doing kind of in the direction of like, okay, you think it's going one way, but no, we're doing this very straight. It's like, they're like, no, we're not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. This is what happens. We're doing. So, and there's his response to the Bavarian army is, now that's a fine army. That's a first-class military education.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Hitler, his grand aspirations are, I'll go to Germany, then I'll be the leader of the Third Reich. And then again, it's so nice. And again, honestly, you could kind of take this, but again, you could also take it to the original sources of Space Jam and say, okay, it's kind of nice the father saying, hey, those are wonderful ideas, kid, but don't just jump to the future. Enjoy the youth that you're having now. Slow down. Again, just kind of adding a little bit of levity there. Don't you think you should get a little sleep first? And again, here's the This to me I think this is what you were kind of hitting at the beginning of this, Tiki, where basically the feeling I had at the end of the first one was kind of, this is where it all kind of, this is where the things could get dicey. For me, it does not get dicey at all. I just say, okay, it's part of the joke. Well, besides that, I'm going to and this essentially is the whole. And after that, I'm going to play baseball like you did, Dad. That's what they're referencing with this.
God. Yeah,
and the turn on that. And again, you got to remember that's the most heartwarming part of that opening. This is so hilarious, but that's the most heartwarming part of that opening scene from Space Jam. The whole. And after basketball, I'm gonna play baseball. Play baseball like you did, Dad. And again, that's wonderful. It's like it's basically Michael Jordan's kind of the honoring the father of it all. It's like, hey, I respect you and I love you, Father. I'm going to do what you did after I do what I want to do, which is so sweet and so heartwarming. That's where the heart of that movie is, and that's like Michael Jordan, like famously, is like, oh my God, it's horrible. That's where Space Jam Explorers, like, oh, he's honoring his father, but the world kind of hates him for it. Like the world kind of mocks him for it. Like, oh man, that Michael Jordan's a terrible baseball player. Was wrong.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, baseball player, was a sensational flop, to say the least.
But again, I tell you that moment in that movie just gives, again, whether factually happened or not, because again, they could have fudged the details. It wasn't a biopic after all. It was just, something they could have fudged the details on. I just kind of inferred that. I mean, we know it happened. But imagine if that scene happened where, like, oh my God, he was honoring his father with that. And that's what he had this overwhelming sense of sympathy and pity for Michael Jordan and being in the position that he's derided for. And now we take that scene and we do it here where, again, it's the most horrifying thing, especially for a child to say, but at the same time, it is coming from that loving place. And the implication that his father had a distaste for Jews, and that's him. Besides that, I'm going to eliminate all the Jews.
And you know what? The pathos and the chemistry with this kid that we develop, you're just like, yeah, right on, little Hitler, right on. You do that.
It's selling it, absolutely. Again, the remind again. And what this strategically, what they're doing here too is, and this is also, again, while we're laughing, I just want to make it clear, and they're also addressing this. I think they're covering all the bases with this moment here. Is the most pivotal part of the whole thing, because this is a reminder of the consequence. So it's like, okay, folks, you're laughing at Hitler, but don't forget he did something really bad.
No, you're right. You're right. I can see that. Yeah.
And then this is kind of where we in a way we do hit the Just Giggle reminder where, okay, we remind people of the severity and the darkness of the joke here. Basically, this is kind of the twisted, kind of like there's like kind of the twist that, like, when you rip the knob off at 11, if you will, is sort of the remember the consequence. The severity, the twisted joke does have that loving punctuation though. Genocide. Now that's a sport.
Oh God.
So again, it's like he's honoring his father's passion of having a distaste for the Jewish people, but at the same time, it is, again, I think their trump card and all this, they're in the whole is that, hey, people, again, if we've done our job successfully in crafting this and picking this of all things to do a Hitler joke with, we've picked something that has a lot of like nostalgic resonance, has a lot of like genuine pathos, so people know.
Exactly. That's the brilliant thing about it. Yeah.
And I think that's why that's the brilliance. I think that's why, like, they kind of cover bases not really being offensive as it could have gone. Like, it doesn't torpedo or like kind of go. I don't think it divides people, because again, I think they did their job so smartly in the storytelling of this spoof of, like, okay, so people at this point, they know exactly what we're doing. We've been so serviceable, so they know at this point the whole baseball thing. So they know, like, the whole honoring the father moment where, okay, we're parroting that, and then they're realizing the cleverness of, we're laughing at something horrible, but again, it's borrowing from something iconic, and that's why he's saying such a thing. So it's really nice. So, and of course, I suppose after that you're going to fly. So as young Hitler is being walked back into the house after a night of father-son bonding, so then we have the big sell of it all. Again, this is like the whole. So that moment, that's the make or break. So that whole scene is the make or break of the whole thing, right? Then we had the big payoff. So if you sold your, I can't believe I'm saying this in relation to Hitler, I really can't. But this is sort of the equivalent of, you will believe a man can fly, but for Hitler, where.
You will believe you can be stoked for Hitler's rise to power.
You will, at the very least, you will believe Hitler can play basketball. That's kind of, at the very least, that's kind of what you're taking away here. Where it's the big sell of of young Hitler here. So again, you bought into it, you bought into the farce, you got past the big kind of mountain of it all, and now it's like, okay, now we're basking in the absurdity again. It's the just giggle thing. Okay, now we've as much rules of their own that they're kind of breaking. They're kind of they're subverting their own subversion, which is kind of trippy and cool. At the same time, they're kind of circling back with this and like, okay, we're doing our jobs right. People are going to be on board for like the absurdity of it all here. Where again, we're gonna be laid back and real confident here that we're just going to let history play out, but we're going to edit it in a very Space Jammy way. We're just going to let it all sink in here, and people are going to be wowed, or they're going to be dumbfounded, or they're going to be too guilty to have a negative comment. It's going to be one of those three, and we're going to be successful with that. So the big sell of a young Hitler that you hopefully are rooting for at this point, despite your better judgment. It's a big sell of young Hitler. Impressive, and again, it's what the original Space Jam did. What we're doing here, it's Hitler in this moment, like Michael Jordan was in this moment. With that, his father issued him a challenge, like unintentionally issued him a challenge, like, "Oh, and I suppose you're going to fly." So that son, he flies as far as he can do on the physical plane. He flies in like making the basket. That's his way of impressing his father, like telling his father in a visual way, "I can accomplish anything." And again, it's a big triumphant moment. And again, we take that feeling you had, either remembering Space Jam or just being swept up in all this, and he goes for the he goes for the basket. And as we edit with him charging to make the basket, we have this so well. The editing is fantastic on this. Joshua Thomas, just major props to him. We intercut this big triumphant moment of young Hitler with Nazi propaganda and all the famous footage. And my favorite detail in this whole thing, Tiki, my favorite detail. That was brilliant. Ever since the first time I watched it, it was like, oh my god, this was smart. This was they were geniuses. This is what kind of like, I don't know if it was the first time I knew Just Giggle was a group full of geniuses. But this is I'm sure I had the notes, but Joker and Harley Quinn. But this is like, these guys, even in other things, these guys know what they're doing. They're brilliant. Where in the editing, he runs up to make the basket, and we intercut him like mid stride, throwing the ball with the Sig Heil. With the Nazi salute. It's like, yes, oh my, it's so clever. Yes, it makes we connect the basketball to the history in a visual image, and we cut it so well. Oh god, it's God. And then I don't know if this is intended to, but after that, there's potentially the darkest joke they have is like one that kind of slips under your nose, like under the radar. So I don't know if you noticed this, Tika. There's a really potentially dark joke.
Yeah.
I won't go to. Let's just say we have the fencing is from Space Jam, right? We have the fencing behind the names. It is from Space Jam. That's why they put it in there. However, it does make you wonder, as we see that over our Nazi stuff. It does make you wonder: is there a dark Holocaust joke in there?
Oh man,
that's as far as I'm just gonna point that out. I don't know if that's intentional. It may or may not be. All I'm gonna say is the fence wasn't Space Jam, so at the very least, there's pulling from Space Jam.
Right,
Could be unintentional. That's all I'm saying. But again, then we have just the comment of Hitler and Bugs Bunny. Basically, the opening.
Yeah, that's great.
And
which
at the last shot,
the absurdity that Space Jam in itself was literally based on an ad campaign.
Yes. And indeed, we have like now I'm just going to assume Jeff Thomas was really smart on pulling this clip. So I'm going to assume he intended something with this clip, but then again, I don't want to just like say, oh my god, he was a little too brilliant, where he picked. We end on a very specific clip with Hitler, like the image before we just have like cuts to Hitler's face like left and right. We have a shot of him, almost like a Mandarin-esque shot from Iron Man 3. We have a shot of Hitler. Yeah, and again, this is where we go full circle. And again, it's kind of a resonant. It has some kind of a resonant pathos, but Hitler kind of embracing a child, and he's just like patting him on the head essentially. And I think that's full circle. It's like, oh, it's kind of like he's kind of encouraging the youth, like he was encouraged by his father early in this. My God. But again, they are taking actual Hitler footage there, so I'm going to my hope, my again, maybe this can be confirmed out that Joshua Thomas, he picked clips, for a reason. It wasn't just like a random, okay, Hitler clips, just going to put a few Hitler clips. And I want
that he were very intentional. Yeah.
At the very least, the Sig Heil was. I'm just saying the kid thing. I think is like, hey, you start off as a youth himself. He's encouraging the next stage of Nazi basketball players.
Oh my god.
So then we end on the Tiki. Tell me you saw the post credit gag. Did you see the post credit gag?
Yeah, I saw it.
Good. Tell them about. Tell them about.
It's kind of a riff on the got milk thing.
Yes, and he has a little Hitler milk mustache.
Oh my god.
So it's so simple, it's so on the nose, but they've earned it. That's like down there, like, okay, now we're doing a cliche joke, but they saved it for the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, boy, so wow.
Yeah. So yeah, final thoughts on my end. I've got to admit, this isn't my favorite of the ones we've covered. It's honestly probably number 4 of 4. But that's not to say it's bad, because these guys, they're just, they really know what they're doing in terms of comedy. And it's not a laugh out loud gut buster, Dragon, and that's why it's probably the one that kind of attached with me the least out of the 4, is that it really isn't a knee slapper. But what it does do, as you said, is that it kind of goes beyond the usual just giggle at conventions, and it's this one is really quite a think piece. You know what I mean? It's very much kind of like, it puts you in the place of like, oh my god, it's such a warm, cozy, nostalgic place with such a dark undertone to it, and the contrast and the dichotomy between those two things, it just it plays with you, man. It's like a Rorschach test in a way to see how you react to it. So in that way, I think conceptually it's really, really, really on the money. It's shot great. It looks beautiful. Like I said, it's just not exactly my cup of tea. I still think by far my favorite of the 4 we've covered is the Pokemon one, just because I'm a 90s kid and I love that stuff. But still,
I don't have a dad.
Yeah, this is a very well done idea and very well executed.
Yeah. I think I just echo my thoughts earlier in closing here. Langford, he masterfully directed this. Joshua Thomas, he edited this flawlessly. It's a sketch it's a spoof without flaws in the editing. It really is. It's a simple joke, but it earns its farce. It's such an out of left field joke. What if we did Space Jam with again looking at kind of the whole looking at the premise of the whole Just Giggle search engine. Of like a robot chicken, you just kind of type something in, you're going to see what pops up.
Yeah.
It does kind of fit into, like, as we kind of saying earlier, what we've seen done with Hitler, and what makes sense. That, okay, in a world where, like on a robot chicken, where like everything's been done, where little Hitler, like when you have Family Guy having Hitler jokes, is like, okay, the Hitler jokes do exist and Hitler parodies do exist. You'd imagine, like, people making fun of it. Again, the whole meme of from Inglorious, where we have Hitler going on his rant and we put different subtitles under him. So yeah, it would make sense. They could have all the things on the internet that have made jokes of Hitler. You'd imagine, okay, well, if anything under the sun's been done, then Space Jam was done this way.
Why not?
And again, it earned its farce by adapting it so right. Adapted a film and adapted a work so right. And again, by the end, you're charmed by Hitler, and it's funny. It worked. Again, it's astonishing. Again, I think Mel Brooks would be proud of this, because again, it's making Hitler a joke, while at the same time it's selling you on a story that isn't even your own, but it's like the ultimate magic trick of a spoof take. It's like, we're going to take something that someone else has done, taking another work, and we're just going to like change one thing, but essentially we're going to play it out beat by beat by beat, and you're going to love it. You're going to be, you don't know why you're going to like it, but you're going to like it, and they achieve it. It's like the perfect kind of like, it's like an optical illusion, or it's the perfect kind of sleight of hand, I guess. It's a sleight of hand of a spoof, and it's fascinating. I thought it was great.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for taking the time out to watch our observations on this great channel. Our usual schedule for this is going to be Tuesday nights for the time being. If you want to send in a comment, telling us what Just Giggle at sketch we should review next, by all means, go and do that. And in the meantime, just remember, you can call me Mom.